right, this is Sherman Tank coming at you with David. What's going on,
Hey,
David?
everybody. Man, it's been nutty out here in California lately, and I'm sure it's pretty nutty everywhere else right now too. But I was talking to my wife. We went out today to the store, and we'd already had everything that we possibly could need throughout this whole ordeal and experience. But people are panicking, and they're
Oh,
panicking really bad. You're seeing people who are antsy at stores. Shelves are empty. Costco's basically got nothing at it. Winco's got nothing at it. A few of the smaller stores are starting to get picked off too. Toilet paper's gone for whatever reason. The lemmings are freaking out and saying, "We all need to wipe our asses."
hey, yeah, I know it's kind of nuts. Hey, everybody out there, if you can hear us clearly, let us know. If the audio sounds good, let us know. I'm trying a different software this time, and David's clear to me. I'm not sure if everybody can hear us. So if you can hear us, please let us know and give us a thumbs up or whatever. But yeah, this coronavirus, man. I don't know. If we're supposed to go out and buy beer and some limes, or what the hell the deal is. But um, it's uh, it's kind of gotten crazy. As you can tell here, I'm set up and ready to go. Um, Although in my house this is hotter than hell, so bear with me. I just figured that I have it. I might as well wear it and see what happens. But
There we go. Now I can hear you.
oh, you can hear me now.
I can hear you now.
Did you
It
lose
seemed
me
like you
there for a
froze
second?
there for a minute.
Yeah, that was your screen froze for a second too. So
Gotcha.
but yeah, the coronavirus is well, it's alive and well, and it's kind of crazy. I mean, people even in Alaska, we got our first case reported on Thursday, and of course, whenever there's a case reported, they don't give you any freaking details on where the person went or nothing like that. So you have no idea what parts of town to avoid, and
Hmm.
that's kind of concerning, considering Anchorage ain't that big. I mean, there's all kinds of places that you can go and be in the same place as someone else. So
Well, and
um,
the other thing about it that's concerning too is that you may be a carrier of it, not know that you're a carrier of it, and be going out to work, be going out to the store, be going out all kinds of other places, hanging out at events, and for 7 to 14 days you may be carrying it before you even know that you're sick.
right.
And so that's a big amount of time. And there's a lot of talk that this is actually a genetically engineered virus that came out of Harvard and then got released over in Wuhan. And I'm not sure the accuracy of that, but I know that was something that was mainstream media for a little while, and now I'm not hearing that so much. So I'm not sure if maybe that got debunked or whatnot. But
Uh,
that's some odd stuff too.
yeah, it's there's all kinds of different conspiracy theories toward it, and not only conspiracy theories, but supposedly, they've debunked this and they've debunked that, and the problem with it is, we've heard things have been debunked before, and it came back and it come back and bit them in the ass. So, I don't think we'll ever fully know where it's at. We can always speculate, and but when something that's affected the planet, now this isn't just affecting the United States, it's affecting the planet. I do believe that there are a few countries that haven't reported anything. Russia, I've seen someone talking about, well, why isn't Russia reporting anything? Well, they are. They're having it too. So is a few other places. Mexico's not reporting anything, but I'm sure that they probably have it. Italy is probably by far the worst hit. Italy and the UK and the European. Okay, it's hard for me to talk on this stupid thing. The European
Take it off.
Union. Yeah, I'm gonna take it off. I think I'm pretty good. I don't think my computer's infected, so I'm gonna take it off.
Good. So one of the things that I've been seeing as far as the Italy side of things is that their average age there of their population is in their mid 40s, and that's their average population. They don't have a lot of younger people, but one of the things that concerns me there about it is at any point in time this thing could mutate. And let's go off the deep end hypothetical for a minute and say it was a genetically engineered bioweapon. If that's the case, it will be made to spread and then continue to go through, because there's reports from doctors that say that once you have it, it's almost like bronchitis. It stays in your system and it pops up again unknown times. And so from that perspective, it doesn't behave like a virus that normally should, and it stays in your system and regroups and pops back up at maybe inconvenient times.
Well, that's the thing that's concerning to me actually is, um, if this is an actual new virus, which I don't think it really is. I think, if you look on some of the Lysol cans and some of the stuff out there, it mentions a coronavirus. This may be a new strain of it, but at the same time, um, you know, we've been around the coronavirus, probably the parts of the genetics of it for how long? You know what I mean? The problem is if we haven't actually contracted, or we don't actually have the coronavirus in us, we don't have any way of building any antibodies to it. And like the flu, we get the seasonal flu every year. People die from it. I mean, we have people dying from it every year. But the difference is with the flu is we've had it before. We've there's flu shots out there that some take, some don't. I don't personally take a flu vaccine for it. I haven't since high school.
Yeah, I'm not a believer in the flu shot. From what I've seen, 60% of the time the flu shot isn't even taking care of the current flu that's going around and about.
No, and that's part of the problem is, as many people get sick from the flu shot as that probably pretty much takes the flu or that gets the flu. So almost every time, the reason I quit taking it is every time I took it, I got sick, like within a week. Yeah. So I got to the point where I haven't had the flu since high school, knock on wood. I get a cold or so every year, especially up here in Alaska, because we have breakup up here. I came up last April, and I got sick pretty good. But we have what we call breakup, which is where all the snow and everything melts, and they don't clean the roads. So we have all the dust and everything that's been sitting in the snow that ends up on the streets. And as you're driving, I mean, it looks like smog in the city, but it's not really smog. It's just dust and dirt flying around in the air. So, of course, coming back up here in April is whenever it started happening. I didn't wear a dust mask or anything going back and forth to work or being outside, and I got sick. I got like bronchitis and my chest. I coughed for like 2 months, and it was very unpleasant, but it wasn't life threatening. They gave me some stuff at the ER and good to go in about 2 weeks. So the problem with the coronavirus is we just doesn't, supposedly we don't know enough about it. We don't know if it's mutating. A virus or whatever can mutate 3 or 4 times before they ever get a hold on it. And viruses are kind of smart. With that being said, a virus, you really can't kill it, so to speak. You can build your antibodies up against it, but they're like any other live living being. Is they adapt to it. They adapt and overcome. And viruses have been around since the beginning of the planet. There was walking on the planet. There was viruses out there that was ready and willing to kill it. So we're never going to outlive it. We just have to figure out a way to fight it and not have, first of all, the biggest thing about this whole thing is common sense. Wash your hands, use good hygiene. If you're wiping your hand with your butt, or wiping your butt with your hand, I'm sorry, it's probably a good idea that you need to wash your hands. If you're touching your face all the time, or even contacts. I'm wearing contacts right now. I wash my hands before I put my contacts in my eyes. I will wash my hands before I take my contacts out. Washing your hands doesn't kill everything, but it'll kill 90% of it. So it's a good idea to, anything that you're messing with your face, it's a good idea to clean your hands and all that kind of stuff. It's just good hygiene. You learn this stuff in high school and middle school. Unfortunately, not everybody uses it, and unfortunately, not everybody has access to things that have good hygiene. Unfortunately,
Well, the
Um,
other thing about it is too that people are going whack right now about getting all the hand sanitizer and stuff like that. You are so far better off just getting yourself some soap and water and rubbing and scrubbing your hands, because you can see it under a UV light. It's not as good if you just go through and put some hand sanitizer on your hands and think you're good. The military originally developed it so that it would be put on hands and then washed off, and then it would be better than what soap would be. But the other thing is, if you can get alcohol and mix it with some aloe vera, you got
mhm.
hand sanitizer just on its own.
Well,
So
there's
it's
another
about
thing too. If you can't find hand sanitizer, I actually do a lot of reloading and stuff. There's another chemical that you can buy that's called liquid lanolin. If you can't find aloe vera, you can't find certain things to mix the alcohol with. Liquid lanolin works just as well, and it'll actually soften your skin too. I actually use it as a lubricant for reloading rifle shells. It works really, really good. It keeps your skin moist, and it's the same thing. You mix it with straight alcohol, and it doesn't have a smell. If you don't like having a smell on your hands, some people are allergic to things, so that's something else that you can. And I have it in a spray bottle, so if I want to clean my hands or whatever, I just spray it on my hands. Rub it in, and I'm good to go.
yeah.
Uh, and
And for the people that can't find rubbing alcohol to blend it with that, you can do vodka, or a lot of times you can find an 80 proof rum that'll get you just about the same amount. And most of the things, I mean, yeah, don't do it right before you're driving, obviously,
right,
but it's going
and,
to be better off than nothing.
another thing that you can use, and I don't, it's a last ditch thing. I mean, if you can't find anything else, go to the gas station and buy a bottle of heat. Heat is 99% alcohol anyway. It's supposed to, you guys down there, I'm sure, have it. All your stores have it. Up here, we have it a lot because we have people that drive diesels, and the heat, what it's meant to do is it's meant to break up the ice in your fuel lines. Heat is actually an alcohol, 99% alcohol. There may be one or two other things in there, but it's not going to hurt you. Don't drink it, obviously, because it's really potent, but heat is basically rubbing alcohol, but it's 99%. It's high grade stuff. It's not that expensive. It's like $3-4 for a little deal of it. Um, it's just another. There's all kinds of different things and remedies that you can use to fight this thing with. The key is whatever it is that you find that works, use it. Don't try and be too sparing with it. Um, and the same thing with like wiping down your tables, wiping down your doors, and anything anyone touches, keep clean. The funny thing is I see different things that's going on in the country, in the countries, in across the world. And one thing that I really noticed is how they're trying to change culture everywhere. And like you start seeing um the leftists are like, okay, well, for guys, you need to shave your beards. Well, one of the biggest things for guys that I know is if they can grow a beard, that shows that they have a lot of testosterone, and it's a manly thing to do, right? Well, they're trying to get guys to shave their beards, and you may have some bacteria and stuff like that in your beards, but you can still clean it. Um, I don't grow a beard very well. Mine comes in all patchy and looks like crap, but um, it's going to take something drastic for me to go and shave this even off. Mine's pretty easy to maintain, and if I want to clean it, I'll clean it. You can dip the damn thing in alcohol. It's not that hard to do. But the thing is the panic has gotten so bad. You're going to see people changing their lives and their lifestyles over something that might happen or might not happen. I mean, it just completely blows my mind that we've gotten to this point. And it's almost like someone sent me a video of a movie that was supposedly not released. It actually was released. It's called Contagion.
Mm-hmm.
And it's got in it Gwyneth Paltrow, and it's got a bunch of other Hollywood idiots. Anyway, and it's kind of along the same lines, but basically we're living a movie script right now. You know, there's certain steps that they've taken, and they're following the movie script. Um, so, and they're putting us in. They're trying to limit our travel. They're trying to limit what we can do in and outside of our towns. They're trying to make us run out of food. I mean, literally, if people went along their daily lives like nothing's wrong, we wouldn't have any issues. The one thing that does scare me about this thing is the fact that our ports are starting to empty. We're not receiving a lot of goods from other countries. There was a video put out. I'm not sure which port he was at, but it was a guy that was a port worker. He comes out in the mornings, and it was dark when he was filming, but the port that he worked in was, I would say, 80% empty. And you know, he said, he showed where he was standing. He said usually there's connexes that are just lined up from the water to where he was at, and he was like a quarter mile away. So, you know, if we don't have anything coming into the ports, we don't have anything that's going to make it to the stores.
And this is the biggest thing that scares me in all of this is I'm not too concerned about the coronavirus. I'll go in a little bit on the stats on the coronavirus. It could be very deadly and it could be very scary, but we're talking about the flu times 10 is literally what we're talking about. And that's worst case scenario based upon what I've seen. The coronavirus mortality rate in the elderly is right around 11%. In individuals who are healthy and well and younger and even babies, the coronavirus is like not even 1%. And so it averages out to a 2%.
Well, they've
the
already
flu virus.
not to cut you off, but they've already had a child that was just born. I think it was like a week or 2 weeks old or something that got it, and they survived it. They beat it, no problem.
Well,
so that's a newborn.
This is actually what leads me to believe that the conspiracy theory stuff about the virus itself being genetically engineered may have some depth to it, because China has a huge overpopulation problem, and people in China generally live long lives. Despite all the air pollution and all the rest of the crap that they live in, they still generally are living very long lives, so much so that most of the places that are there now work on mortgages that are actually generational. So your parent signs up for a mortgage and it puts you on the line for it, and you're expected to live in the same house for generations. And that's just the way they do things based upon how many people that they have there. And so with all of the riots and the things like that that have been going on over in Pakistan, Iraq, Iran, also in China, over in the Hong Kong provinces, what's the best way to keep people inside and mandatorily keep people inside is to release something like this that also is going to take care of your elderly population.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why you see places like Italy, which are having mortality rates which are off the charts. Basically, 1 in 15 who's gotten it has died. Right. They've only had 15,000 cases, and last I checked, they had 1,006 people who died from it. And so the scariest thing about this is, like you said, the ports and the amount of trade that's being cut off. You've got Europe, and you've also got China, which now are not exporting and they're not importing. And with the travel ban that just took place on Europe, between Europe and China, 90% of the drugs that people get right now come out of those places. Right. So you're talking about cutting off that. So if this is a prolonged thing, we may see more people dead because they don't have access to medicine than we do from the actual virus itself. And so the official reports on the coronavirus are that its mortality rate is 2%. Right. And to keep that in perspective, the flu is a 0.02%. And so it's 10 times worse than what the flu is. And that could be bad. Yeah, no doubt about it. But by the same token, it's not something to literally shut down and kill 1 million people over because they don't have access to medicine.
Well, you know, here's the stuff that I see, and this could be the prepper in me, or that could be, you know, I don't know, you know, right lately on Facebook, I haven't been posting too many serious things. I've been posting things that, you know, try and keeps the my followers and stuff like that. I try and keep them entertained a little bit. I try and keep everything on the lighter side of things, but with this thing going on and the panic that we've already seen, and it's just getting started. It's not even We're not really even I would say a week or two into this thing yet. Um, Trump just declared a national emergency. We already knew that. Now, what I see happening, okay, so right now you're seeing the panic to go out and buy toilet paper. And, the store shelves are emptying and they can't keep up with the demand. What's going to eventually end up happening, and in some places, some of it's already happened, you're going to start seeing people fighting over different goods. We've already seen people fighting over toilet paper. There's a video going around where an older woman's fighting a younger woman for one deal of toilet paper, and people are trying to. You're starting to see the price gouging going out about alcohol, sanitizer. You're starting to see all that kind of stuff. So what's going to eventually end up happening is you're going to start having shootings. You're going to start having people looting some of these big stores like Costco, the pharmacies, CVS, Walgreens, places like that have medicine. And, if you've ever watched one of those big movies or even The Walking Dead, you're going to start seeing people looking for supplies. Not during the day. They're going to be out at night looking for this kind of stuff. And if they see, don't even be surprised if you leave a store with a bunch of stuff and someone sees you get in your car. Don't be surprised if you don't get people start following you home.
Yep.
I mean, that's kind of the way it is. I mean, we're getting to the point now where, and this is preemptive. I'm trying to let everybody know and open your eyes to scenarios that I see, and I'm pretty good at seeing different things happen before they happen. And this is one of the things that scares the crap out of me is, if you're by yourself or, if you're going to go shopping, I wouldn't go shopping by yourself. I would do it in teams if you can, at least have one or two other people with you, get your shopping done and get the hell out of there. And if nothing else, go in two cars. Because you're safer with an extra person or two than you are by yourself. And if you do go by yourself, go armed. Go have a way to protect yourself. And that's another thing too is, here's very soon, it would be a good idea to make sure that you don't go anywhere unarmed. Whenever we have an issue like this, I mean, even in the Northern California fires, the North Bay fires, stuff like that, looting happens. And there was people in those fires that were breaking into buildings while they were on fire. So, it's something that everyone needs to understand. When somebody has something that someone else wants, the person who wants it will find a way to go get it. And unfortunately, that's the society we live in today.
Yeah, 100%. And sorry, this doggone light was bugging my eyes, so I had to wipe them a little bit. But yeah, this is absolutely one of the things that we're seeing. It's turning into something to where I believe that the people that are around us are going to be more dangerous and more deadly than this virus is overall. And the longer this goes on, the worse things are going to get. One of the things that I see is everybody, for any reason, should have cash on hand. Because at any given time, only 1/10 of the world's money and 1/10 of the U.S. money is actually kept in a bank. It's called fractional reserve banking. So if there's a run on the bank, you can't get cash, you can't live, you can't do anything. So your borrowing ability is gone just like that.
Oh yeah.
And it's not something to go out and panic buy everything, but hopefully a lot of you already have the things that you have that you need right now to be able to do it. Like my wife and I was telling Tank a little bit earlier, I actually got laid off because of the coronavirus, and it's something that's another thing that needs to be looked at is our economy is going to suffer. All of the world's economy is going to suffer, unlike we've ever seen before from this instance, because our ports have not been shut down in over 50 years. This is the first time in 50 years that our ports have been shut down like this. And what we're already seeing is places like Apple have already said, because of just 1 month being down of being able to get production back from China, they're not going to have their next release until a year later from 1 month. And so you're talking about global collapse of economies, there's already a whole bunch of people. You're talking about the ports over LinkedIn. I was looking at it. 150 people from the Los Angeles port have already been laid off.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just the Los Angeles port alone. I actually got laid off because of my position, a lot of stuff we get from China in my last position, and we're starting to see that starting to spread. So we're going to see unemployment numbers that are going to start skyrocketing. We're going to see the economy that's going to start tanking. People might start pulling out their money out of the 401k, and based upon what I've seen just upon the 2008 crash, we could see the Dow go down anywhere from 5 to 7,000 points more, just to be equal to where we were back in 2008 as far as the percentages that it fell.
Well, look at what the Fed's already pumped into it. How many times have they done that? They've injected money into it, what, like 6 times?
Yep. And with what we've been doing, we've already been on a teeter-totter of going through and being on very dangerous territory with our economy. I've been saying it for a long time that we need to rip the Band-Aid off and go ahead and increase interest rates. Otherwise, we're going to see another 2008. Because what you have is you have the Federal Reserve, and I really enjoy Trump. I love him as a president, but he's also been pushing for even negative interest rates to be able to grow our economy at this time. But the problem is when you get into those type of negative interest rates or low interest rates, people think, oh, well, it's free money. I should just go ahead and do this right now, when they have no business doing it. Next thing you know, we have an epidemic like this that comes along. People start getting laid off. People aren't making their payments. The whole entire economy collapses, and we've got 30% layoffs.
Right.
And this thing is set up over a misnomer for nothing, and it could turn scary. I mean, there's more at play here. Back in November, I believe it was November 18th or 19th, 2019, prior to this virus coming out, the CDC, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, the world players as far as the top companies, all put together this hypothetical of a virus that starts in a animal and it goes through and spreads to the world. Well, on their calculations that they had, they were saying that within, I believe it was 18 months, 60 million people were dead.
Oh yeah,
And
it's
that's a lot.
well. The thing is, this is both airborne. It's both, so if you cough on somebody, they can get it. You can get it through touch. You can get it through anything that someone's touched. Depending on how long it lives on a surface. You could follow somebody through a door, and they say they touched the doorknob and you touched it. I mean, there's so many different things that can transmit this, and they may not even know all the ways. Now, one of the things that everybody I know in the prepper groups are talking about is martial law, and stuff like that. Now, here's the way I look at the martial law thing. When you start recalling troops from other countries, when you start doing things like that, and you're bringing them over here to occupy the United States, that's when you need to start worrying. The National Guard, there's not enough National Guard in the country to be able to take over every state. They're going to take over hotspots. They're going to do this stuff that they're going to take over major infrastructure type stuff. They're going to watch probably the power grid, and they're going to watch the stuff that we absolutely need to survive. But eventually those people are going to get sick of the stuff that they're doing too, and they're going to want to go home and protect their families if it gets bad enough.
Well, and we're already seeing that to some extent about the martial law portions of it. The Illinois mayor, I'm not sure if you heard, but he did some scary shit today. So the Illinois mayor has signed an executive order granting power to ban the sale of guns and alcohol while addressing the coronavirus. This is on the Washington Examiner. And it says the mayor of the campaign in Illinois gave herself the power to ban the state sale of guns and alcohol after declaring a citywide emergency to address the coronavirus. And they're shutting down all of these different things. I don't know why you'd be banning alcohol right now, considering rubbing alcohol is completely sold out. So alcohol is your next best bet. If you absolutely can't get a place to wash your hands, then yeah, get yourself some vodka and just splash it on your hands. People have been doing it on gunshot wounds since the 1900s.
Well, and not Illinois is not the only place that's gone crazy. New York has already called in the National Guard there in one little area. I mean, there's so many things that can go wrong with this. I mean, we're still letting cargo planes fly in here. That's how we got our one case. Was we had a cargo pilot that flew into Alaska, started feeling sick while he was here. Had been overseas. The guy's a foreign national. He's not from here, and luckily he had been probably briefed or whatever at the airport. If you start feeling sick, yada yada yada. But he was staying at actually a Sheraton hotel here in Anchorage, and started feeling sick, and then ended up going to the hospital. But it sounded like there was 3 firefighters that ended up helping him. What the thing is they're not letting the public know is how did he get to the airport, or I mean, sorry, how did he get to the hotel? How did he get from the hotel to the airport? Was it Uber? Was it did the fire department take him? I mean, who knows? What this guy came in contact with, or how many people he came in contact with, his flight crew. There's so many unanswered questions, and there's a lot more of those than there are answered questions. They didn't say what country he came from, what his origin was. There's a lot of things. I think that supposedly what they said was once he realized he was sick, he started wearing a face mask, so he was, he wasn't spraying out droplets or anything like that. But it doesn't matter. Once you're contagious, pretty much anything you touch can transmit. So
Well, that's the scary thing. So once he started feeling it, he had already been contagious for 4 to 7 days
Right.
before that.
Yeah. So
And
anything he
so-
came in contact with on his way over, probably in the place that he left, wherever it was, that's where he picked it up. I'm
Well, and
guessing.
think about planes too for a minute. Planes are recirculated air. So
yeah.
everybody that stepped off of that plane, once they touched down and went throughout Anchorage, they all ended up going through this issue and this problem.
Right. And that's the thing that's the thing is airplanes and here's a bad thing. My boss, the guy that I work for, he's in Hawaii right now. And there's cases in Hawaii. I don't think that there's a state that's been untouched. I think West Virginia was the last place I heard that it hadn't hit. It was us, them, and Idaho. Idaho's now got 2 cases. We have a case, and we probably have more than that. I read an article somewhere today that said that, and it's very, very real possibility that there are, if this is as contagious as they say, I should say, then there literally could be 500,000 people infected by it already. Now, here's the thing that I don't know, and I don't think that there's any data on this yet. So when I was a kid, we had a kid in our high school that was a carrier of strep throat, and this guy literally never got sick. He never got any kind of thing, but he always tested positive, and he was known as a carrier. He never actually got sick. It never affected his body, but when people started coming down with strep throat, they kept him home. And the reason was because he would spread it, but it didn't affect him. He would go around and everything was normal for him. And it's something to do with his antibodies in his body, something to do with his maybe his blood type, I don't know. But it never affected him. He never once got it growing up. But if 2 or 3 kids came down, he'd been flagged as a carrier, so they wouldn't let him come in. And that's how our school took care of it. So what my question is on this whole thing is, with just about every kind of virus or just about any kind of sickness, there are those people who don't get it and may test positive for it but never have any symptoms. And those what I'm guessing, I would assume, would be the carriers of the stuff. I haven't seen any data on this stuff yet. So I don't know, if there are people walking around that aren't going to get sick and don't ever show any symptoms that carry it, how they're going to detect that. Those would be the people that I assume that you would want to find out why it doesn't affect them, and see if you can't make the rest of the population the same way, I guess. But
Absolutely.
Everybody reacts to illness differently, and we're all individual people, and we all have different issues. I had my gallbladder taken out 7, 8 years ago, and when they did it, it affected my liver. I actually went jaundice for a couple days, and They mentioned, now I don't know if it's an actual diagnosis or not, but if you look at my medical chart and my medical record and everything, they mentioned that I had an autoimmune disease, and they mentioned lupus. Now I don't take any drugs for it. It doesn't affect me other than I'm fat, um, and I do swell up for certain foods. I feel like I'm bloated or whatever, but it doesn't affect my health. Now I don't know if this would be something that was going to make me sick or kill me or whatever. I don't know. I'm not going to change my life around it. If I die, I die. I hate to say it, but I'll be as cautious as I can, but I'm not going to upend my life just to appease a bunch of people that say that it's going to kill me. So, I think that if everyone went around and acted like normal, did their daily lives, I mean, we have things that can kill you every day. You could step off a street corner and get hit by a bus. You could be driving down the road, a wheel could fall off your car and roll it. There's so many things that can kill us, and we're so worried about this. When there's a lot of other things out there that have killed a lot more people than this thing has.
Yeah. Well, I think right now the thing that's scaring everybody is the unknowns, and a lot of people are asking. I was just reading through the comments. They're asking, does anybody know who actually has this? As far as I'm aware, within the United States, there's only about 30,000 cases of it so far. The scariest thing about this is that the individuals who contracted those cases, the 30,000, by the time they went and got tested, they had already been in contact with hundreds of thousands of people.
Oh, yeah.
So this thing, they're taking preemptive measures on it because being 10 times more deadly than the flu, and the flu in the United States normally kills about 60,000 people a year. If it truly is that deadly, then yeah, you could see 500,000 people drop dead from this a year. And I think the main concern with it, and the reason why, if it is legitimate, that they're going through and doing this, is that if this continues to mutate and continues to go around the globe, that one, it could get worse, but two, it could become like the flu and everybody could start contracting it each year, just like they do the flu once they start getting into flu season. So it could be a brand new virus that's introduced to the American public, and we may see 500,000 people drop dead a year, which is scary, and it's bad from that perspective. But by the same token, a lot of the other things that are taking place because of the preventative measures of this are just as scary as far as I'm concerned, because once you start getting into the riots and the pillaging and the people that are freaking out over this, depending on how long this goes, as well as people who are losing their jobs. I mean, we all remember how bad 2008 was. 2008 is going to look like nothing compared to this.
Well, and the thing is too is we've got a different media than we had in 2008. Also, we have a different media than what we had when Barack Obama was a president. They didn't push this stuff near as bad when we had H1N1. We didn't have it near as bad whenever they had the swine flu. There's so many things that have changed since we've had a media that's not scared to scare people, is essentially the best way I can put it. I fully blame the media for the craziness that we're seeing right now.
Well, the media across the board is to blame for a lot of these things. There was a study, I mean, not to get off topic, but the study on school shootings, for instance. School shootings have not gone up since the 1980s. The only difference is now it's in our face for 3 days at a time, over and over again. And they're constantly saying how this is, and they're talking about all the people that need to do it. I mean, take the AR-15 that they're trying to ban in California once again. You go through and you look at that. There's been 21 deaths nationwide from the AR-15. So really, what's the problem? There's more people that are dying from vaping, like off-brand shit, than there are from an AR-15. I mean, there's more people dying from all kinds of other things. There's more pool drownings, but yet we're going after this and labeling it bad. But the media does this over and over again, and we're seeing political spheres that are starting to take care of this and starting to jump on it as an opportunity. One of the things Bernie Sanders, in true fashion today, this is from Breitbart as of today, Bernie Sanders calls for construction of emergency housing over coronavirus, in the true form of a socialist, where he's trying to do this. And the other thing is an article. This one is This one's again fear mongering, and it's scary. This is from commondreams.org. And it says the CDC says Americans should brace for significant disruptions amid warnings of coronavirus could infect 40 to 70% of the global population. We're asking the American public to prepare for the expectation that this might be bad. Public health experts on Tuesday began publicly discussing the coronavirus as a disease which is expected to spread across much of the world, including throughout the United States. And the CDC issued a warning Tuesday that expects the illness to spread in the U.S. and that Americans should prepare themselves for significant disruption to their daily lives. Go on.
Well, what I was going to say is, you got someone out there that's already running on a socialistic platform, and if you look at China, and they've mentioned this a couple times, China's done a pretty good job of containing this, even though that it started over there. So now they've had what, a month and a half, 2 months of dealing with it already, and they're starting to get some containment on it, right? So, but if you look at the methods of what they're doing to contain this supposed contagion, whatever you want to call it, they're literally dragging people out of their houses. They're not doing things like we would do them over here. They're dragging people out of the subway by their hair. They're dragging them at gunpoint and putting them in vans. And some of these people are disappearing. Now, I want you to think about one thing. Before this started, there was a couple things that was going on in the world. One was the Trump impeachment. 2, the Hong Kong protesters. 3, the Iran protesters. I mean,
Epstein.
Literally, there was protests across the world, and a lot of them was going against the governments that they had. Now, as soon as this stuff started, where did the protesters go? There's little protests now, but not near the scale that what they had before, and it's because it was a giant scare. People didn't want to die; they wanted to go out and tell their governments off, but they don't want to die. So they put the fear of God into just about everybody. Now, what happens whenever a population is not allowed to move freely in their country? Now you become a target. Now you become they know where you're at, and China has already got the facial recognition software, so they can tell who everybody is. So you take these protesters in Hong Kong, and now all you got to do is, you've told them they got to stay in their homes and they can't go anywhere. Now all you got to do is stop and pick them up. There's no proof that these people that they're rounding up actually have the disease that they say that they have. We don't know who they are. The government supposedly does.
Well, I can touch on that too for a minute. I have a friend who actually lives within the Hong Kong region, and I've been asking him to update me on. Unfortunately, I haven't heard from him in about 5 to 7 days, so I'm a little bit worried and concerned. But what he told me is that China is out of body bags, and that they're doing mass graves, unmarked graves. They're burning the bodies and they're tossing them all in. And like what you're saying, it's very scary shit what China is doing. And I have no doubt that this, if it was released, that this was to shut down protests, because the Hong Kong people do not want to be ruled by China. They have been free. And as far as I'm concerned, from what I've been seeing, the Hong Kong people believed in America's pledge and America's rationality more than most Americans do themselves. They're
Right.
holding up American flags and chanting for freedom before all this started. But I think a lot of it, we need to be looking at what else is actually happening that they're trying to cover up, because it's coronavirus nonstop on all this stuff. And it was just a little while ago we had the Epstein trial, which the dude was murdered. Pretty freaking clear. You don't have cameras go down and all the rest of that stuff go down, and
Right.
all of these elites that end up getting implicated without something that was going on there. You've got the whole impeachment, which was a sham to begin with, and then it ended up coming through and being seen as the such. And then aside from that, you've got all of the other things that they've been doing. When is the news media cycle silent for a month at a time on only one subject? Is when there's a whole bunch of weird shit that's going on and they don't want you talking about it.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing too. And the media that's out there is reporting what they're told to report, and you can, and we've all known this for years, is you can go through and you can watch newscasts from one part of the country to another, and they're literally reporting word for word what another newscaster said an hour ago, and it's like a script. And unfortunately, until we get the people out that are telling these people what to say, instead of having common sense on some of this stuff, the media is literally part of the contagion, in my opinion. You can take it for what it's worth, but anytime you turn on Fox News, and yeah, I say Fox News, anytime you turn them on, CNN, MSNBC, anytime you turn on any of these major networks and you got the news playing, they're feeding you an agenda of some kind. And
well, and I'll go further on that and back you up completely on it. When you go through and you look at, there was a viral internet video that was going around that was showing all of the local news media in all of these different areas, and it was from probably 7 different media stations across these areas for the individual news stations, and it was word for word the exact same script about what they were telling people at the time. And they do this. And furthermore, what we're seeing with all of the media, most of these media organizations, they trace back to the same people that influence our elections.
And most of them are foreigners.
Yeah, and when you go through and you look at it too, a lot of this gets back to our Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve is set up as a private entity. It's not a private corporation like most people say, but it's set up in such a way to where you have to buy your seat on it. And the seats of the people who are currently serving on the Federal Reserve are a matter of national security, so you can never know it. But at one point we did know it was the Rothschilds, it was the JP Morgans, it was all the rest of them. But these same people who control that are the same people that you see interfering in our campaigns. There's a site that you can go back and you can look on, and you can see the donors for the political candidates. And with the exception of Trump, in the last 20 years, from what I've seen, the same exact donors donated just about the same amount of money to both candidates on either side. You got the JP Morgans, you got the Goldman Sachs, you got all the rest of it. And so they're just pre-selected candidates that they plug into their roles and their positions. And people are so focused on the presidency that they forget all of the other 3 branches of legislation. So you've got the president, you've got all the rest of it, and you've got to be able to focus on the rest of it, because the president really doesn't have that much control, as we've seen. The president, he's trying to do the best that he possibly can in a completely corrupt government, and half of these quote-unquote Republicans are snakes.
Oh yeah, that's a given. I mean, the only power that Trump has is, the executive power to write an executive order. And to be honest with you, I think Barack Obama's written more executive orders than what Trump ever has. And I'm surprised that Trump's not using his executive power to write more of them. But the problem with it, and I'm still I still don't know, for 100% sure, and I don't think anyone does. I mean, everyone wants to support him 100%, but I don't know if, there's been some things that have kind of, made my eyebrows go up a little bit, and certain things he says and certain things that he allows the media to push him into. Like, I mean, it's probably a good idea with this, if it's as real as they say it is, to not have rallies. But think about it. We have 3 presidential candidates. One that has the biggest rallies on the planet, always. There's always a packed stadium. And you have 2 other ones that have, 30 people, 100 people show up at theirs. And Trump literally let the media, and the Democrats shut his rallies down. I guarantee you, with the diehard Trumpers that are out there, if Trump wanted to hold a rally tomorrow, the stadium would be full, regardless of the coronavirus.
No doubt.
So, I mean, that right there shows you the power of the media, shows you the power that the Democrats still hold over him, unfortunately. And I hate to say it, but, I guess Trump was tested for coronavirus, and they came out today and said he was negative.
That is correct. There was an article on Breitbart today, and Actually, I have the article in front of me. It says President Donald Trump has tested negative for the coronavirus, the White House announced on Saturday evening. Last night, after in-depth discussion with the president regarding COVID-19 testing, he was elected to proceed. And he said, this evening I received confirmation that the test is negative. So those rumors are put to rest.
I have a comment on here that I got to elaborate on here. Rich Clewin, I guess. Rich asks, you guys hear about the world pandemic insurance policies that people have and are trying to cash in on with this? No, I have not heard anything about the global pandemic insurance policies. That's something new. So I have no idea about that. If you could send me some articles about it, I'd like to read them. Maybe we need to go out and buy a global pandemic insurance policy. Maybe they'll let us build up a bomb shelter or something. It's got to be worth some money.
Aaron's posted twice and said that he lost us. How's everybody hearing us so far? You guys still hearing us okay?
Might have been his feed too. I haven't lost stream. I still got green bars and everything on here. So my program tells me whether or not I've got good streaming service. Okay, it just went yellow, so maybe then it's back to green again. So I've got good service here right now, so hopefully we don't lose people. But yeah, I mean, we could speculate all we want. I have to assume that until somebody I know catches this, people have asked us this a bunch. Nobody I know has got it. The only one that's a public figure that everyone know that has it, Tom Hanks. And I'll tell you right now, never get on a plane with that guy because he always seems to end up in the ocean or something. So, if you see Tom Hanks run, go the other direction, ask for another ticket, whatever.
I will say something on that I thought was priceless.
What's that?
At the place to where he was going through and doing his isolation, somebody brought him a volleyball with a handprint.
Oh, they rolled it in his door, I heard. Yeah, they rolled it in his door is what I heard. That's pretty classic, actually. Wilson. No, it's I don't know, man. I mean, until it affects somebody that I know, I'm going to be a pessimist about it. I don't think that it's as real as what they say. Now, if it affects somebody that I know and someone gets it that I know and it kills them, yeah, then the shit's real. I mean, right now it's kind of a manufactured, at least in my opinion, with what I've seen. I mean, we didn't have any cases up here, and all the big stores up here had a toilet paper shortage. I mean, out of the blue, and we went up about 3 weeks ago. About 3-4 weeks ago. It was before it all started, and we bought 2 deals of toilet paper at Costco. We didn't even buy the expensive stuff. We bought like the $20 stuff. So. They had one in there that was $25, and we're kind of like, we don't need the puffy stuff. Now I'm kind of wishing I had the puffy stuff. But I until it affects somebody that I know, I'm gonna have fun with it. I threatened my wife today that I was gonna go down to Costco in my ghillie suit, because you can't tell who I am, you can't see my face, you can't like Sasquatch. I was gonna go down like that with a gas mask on. And I figured, if I did that, then I'm just contributing to the panic, because they're gonna all either be laughing at me or they're gonna wonder what I know, or I'm gonna get the cops calling me or something. So I decided, probably better not do that. Now, if things get nuts here down the road, then yeah, maybe I'll do that. But I probably won't be going into a Costco. I'll probably be on a rooftop somewhere. The advice that I have to everybody is, make sure that you stay in contact with your close friends, your relatives. You got a network close to you. Make sure that you reach out to them, and if you need something. Luckily, I have some close friends up here that I know if I need anything, I can reach out to them. If they need anything, they know they can reach out to me. We both have defendable places, which is nice. I don't have anything backed up to my house, so if something were to happen, I can jump out the back door, go over the fence, and I'm gone. No one will even know that I'm there. So, think about your pets, because your pets are going to suffer as much as you do. Your animals are just as much family as anyone else. Make sure they're covered. beans and rice, man. Beans and rice. Make sure you stock up on that kind of stuff. Canned goods. Uh,
Canned goods
and
gone for a
and
lot of parts from what we see in here.
yeah, we
And
still have a pretty good supply up here now. The panic hasn't set in quite as bad here as it has there. It'll probably be one of the last places up here. But for us, luckily, we get to see the shit hit the fan down there before the shit hits the fan up here. And for everyone down there, I got prayers going out because I know what it was like down there during the North Bay fires and how people acted. And for the most part, people did very well, and they helped their neighbors. But there are that select group that like to go out and either start problems, go out and steal and thieve and do whatever they can to get ahead, or um,
all I can say is get stocked up.
yeah,
100%. Because if this thing is as bad as what they say, and I'm taking a side out of cautiously optimistic, we're going to know in about 14 to 20 days if this thing is bullshit. Because if the infection rates are true, and if what they're saying is true, currently we have 30,000 people who are infected. If the infection rates are true, within 14 to 30 days, we're going to see 400,000 people in America who are affected by it. And at that point, we're going to see right around 40,000 people who are dead by it.
right.
And if that starts becoming the case, then yeah, the pandemic is warranted and everything else. But literally by the end of this month, if we don't see any of that and the rates have gone up to 36,000, this is to cover something. And it's to cover their tracks. But in the meantime, what it's done is going to wreck our economy. Have cash on hand, have food on hand, have the necessities that you need on hand, and for God's sakes, have ammunition and a weapon. Because we're already seeing a lot of states have started to turn around and cut off the ability to purchase a handgun. We already have California that's made it to where you have to get a background check to get ammunition, and all it's going to take is for Gavin to say, you can't buy ammunition anymore. So get the shit that you need on that and be prepared for a collapse. Get yourself set up. They say that the average American family has only about $100 in cash. 100 and about 3% of America has $500 cash on hand. I was fortunate when I got laid off. I had cash on hand. I had the ability to be able to do what I needed to do. And quite frankly, for God's sakes, I'm glad I'm not out there going in my previous position, because I was seeing 300 some people a year for a month. But be ready for it when this thing ends up coming, because it could come to fruition. But the thing is, toilet paper is not going to save your life. Having bullets for the marauders who are going to go through and trying to get your medicine and shit like that, maybe ask your doctor right now before it becomes normally known to everybody that there's going to be a shortage of medicine. Ask your doctor if he'll be willing to prescribe you 2 months of your medication. If you're on medication that it's going to be deadly for you to not be in, your insulins, your stuff like that, stock up on those type of things and be prepared and protect your family.
Right. I'm going to comment on another comment that's on the thing here. Jeff, you were 100% right. Jeff Furman, he mentioned it. I was actually going to mention this as well. Toilet paper is probably one of the things that's not going to save your life, but you can use it in a barter situation. And, cash is great to have on hand. But here's the thing with cash. If we end up losing the financial institutions, if stuff really, really goes bad, I want people to kind of think about what it was like in the Great Depression. The Great Depression was a very, very rough time. My grandfather grew up during the Great Depression, and they got by a lot of times on trading things with people in the towns. Now, with that said, anything that you have that you can barter, whether it's your skills, whether it's something that someone else needs that you can trade for something you need, bartering is something that if you've never done it, you've never traded for something. I've traded vehicles before. I got sick of driving one vehicle, I traded for another one. Bartering is a great way to be able to stay alive, and it's a skill that everybody needs to have. So take stock in what you have and figure out if there's anything that you can barter that you don't absolutely need, and you never know, you might want to offer it up. Um, of course, selling things like that, that's great too. But cash is one thing, but if you have something worth value to someone in a situation like this, make sure that you keep it handy because it could come in very handy down the road. Um, and ammo. Say you got a gun that you don't use that often. Ammo that and someone has it and that's what all that they use. That may be a good way to barter. The idea is Americans were smart for the most part. Um, you know, with what's going on right now, it doesn't seem that way, but a person can be smart. Mass mobs can be completely stupid. And when you get enough people together, the intelligence level of those people drop exponentially. So stay out of large groups if you can keep from it. You know, I'm looking at some things too. So we don't have any sports going on right now, right? Even NASCAR, and these guys drive alone in their cars. It blows my mind that we don't even have NASCAR on TV right now.
Well, I think a lot of that too, though, has to do with the congregations of people that
No,
would go to see
no,
NASCAR.
I agree, but I mean they can still run the races. I mean, shit, put the drivers in their cars and let them have a good time, and we'll watch from home. um,
Yeah.
and even my sport, the sport that I bowl in, the one I love, bowling, they've canceled nationals, they've canceled the PBA, they've canceled college bowling and stuff like that. My business is still open. We go through and we disinfect all the bowling balls every night. We're doing what we can to keep the spread down, but we have a state tournament coming up in 2 weeks, and I don't know if we're going to have it. They haven't canceled it yet, but I know that we have a gun show that was scheduled for somewhere in the middle of March. It should have been coming up, and it's going to be in a big auditorium, and I think they've canceled that. So anything that has large groups of people trying to avoid, and even if we do find out that this is crap, we're probably going to find out that it's crap after um, the mayhem has hit the fan. Is the best
Yep.
is my the shit has hit the expect
Well,
chaos because we're going to see it.
best case scenario, what we're seeing right now, based upon what the economy is already starting to do, and with what the company's disruptions are. I mean, you've got Apple, Samsung, GoPro, Nvidia, all the rest of these companies, all these chipsets, they're all made in China. This disruption from it is at the very least going to cause a global catastrophe for the economy. The other thing on it is one of our comments by Alcohol for Bartering. I absolutely agree with that. Bartering is something that you have to be smart about on your items that you get. There was a gentleman, Mark Dice, a lot of you may have known him. He was down in LA and he was trying to see what people thought of the value of gold and silver. And so he had a 1 ounce gold coin that he was trying to sell for $20, which we all know gold coins right now are $1,500. There's a gold shop right behind him that could have him tested. And he was trying to trade people a bottle of water for the gold coin, whatnot, across the board. Most people wouldn't accept it. People don't believe or have an understanding of gold or silver's value anymore. So it's not actually a great bartering item, dependent on your location. If you've got a bunch of lemmings who are around you, like in my case, I'm in California, I don't honestly believe that there's a bunch of people around here that would have an understanding or even a belief that that's real gold. I had one time to where I was up in Mount Shasta and this guy was looking for gas money, and he said that he and his daughter were stranded, and he came to me with some really good authentic looking gold, and he said, I've got all this. I thought it was a scam. I at the time had about $300 on me, and I told him, here's $40, that's all I got. He gave me this gold ring, and it turned out to be fake. So you've got a lot of that that's going into it. And nowadays, gold and silver, I mean, the plating and the things like that that's on them, it's so hard to tell whether or not it's real or not. I would very much say it's probably not one of the best bartering utensils with how good the fakes are nowadays. And that's the scary thing. So you have to figure out the things that are actually going to be needed by people in those times, and a lot of that, I mean, it could be medical bandages, it could be alcohol, it could be painkillers, it could be medicine, it could be anything along the lines of that, but you have to focus on what may actually be useful at a time when there's looting and there's mass amount of hysteria and people who are losing their jobs and going out, quite frankly, and robbing people blind.
Well, and I tell you, one of the best things that you can have for bartering, believe it or not, and you're going to laugh when I tell you this, but simple things like ketchup, simple
Yep.
things like salt, simple things that make food taste good or palatable. If you have that kind of stuff, and say someone's been eating MREs or they're eating stuff that is just hard to choke down, you give them something to help it taste good, and that right there increases the value. Bullets are huge in times like this. Clothing, if you got extra clothing that you can't wear, that's a great barter item. Little stuff like that, and there's other bigger items. I mean, if we end up getting to the point where power starts to we have a disruption in power. Excuse me, held some dirt, or dust or something. Yeah, coronavirus. My shit's infected. No, if you, well, we've talked for over an hour, so my throat's getting dry.
I've already refill my glass.
Think about things that in generators or stuff like that. Gasoline is a good barter stuff. Anything that can burn. If we end up without any power, anything that can burn is good barter, because now you've got a way for someone. There's so many different things out there, but you got to be willing to do it. You got to know what the value of the stuff that you have is. Keep in mind, the stuff that you have is only as valuable as what someone's willing to trade you for or pay for. So, if you have something to barter and someone has something less to barter, you're going to have to think about how valuable it is to you and how valuable it is to the person that wants it.
Well,
So,
depending on the state that you're in too, like Alaska, I'd imagine it'd be crazy for heat and things like that. We're going into a time in California to where most people are going to be able to get by without heat and electricity. But depending on your location, there's a company called GearBest on Amazon, for instance, and they sell a wood stove that you can pick up. It's only like $110, but it's not meant for indoor use, but you could easily plumb it to be able to go outside, and it could save your life if you're in 30 below and things like that. Your temperatures are going to be dependent on your location, and 100% agree with that statement.
another thing too is soap, hygiene products. Deborah brought that up. Hygiene products are great. So if you have a chance to go out and buy a bunch of bars of soap, that right there is huge. Mouthwash.
Even there, one of the things I was going to mention too, even if you're not a chick and you want something to barter with, get yourself some tampons or some pads, because I'll tell you what, when that time of the month rolls around, 50% of the population is a woman, and a guy's going to be able to take care of his woman, and he'll pay a lot to be able to make sure that she's happy.
Well,
so,
that and you can use tampons to plug bullet wounds just in case.
Yeah, true story.
Anyway, I think we covered quite a bit of it. I think I'm going to get off here because my throat's starting to get dry. I'm going to have to go and get some coffee or something. But David, thanks for coming on with me. It's always nice to have someone to chat with and throw things around with. So I'm looking at doing this a little bit more often now that I've got something working pretty decent. So let's do it again. And if anyone wants to come on, I use Skype. And it's really easy to do. I can get you right on, and as long as you can call me on Skype, I can get you on there. So feel free to reach out to me and see if we want to do a video. I'm more than willing to try. So we need more people out there doing this kind of stuff, because during the end of the world, this may not be an option anymore. So we have to be able to communicate. We have to be able to talk to each other, support each other whenever we can. So David, again, thanks for coming on. And for those of you, and I know David said he lost his job and he's looking for work. So anyone that needs any kind of web design or stuff like that, like my intro, David designed my intro. So if you guys want to do something like this and trying to get you some work, David,
Sounds good.
Reach out to David, and his name is David Johnson on Facebook, and hopefully you guys can work something out. But I'm hoping to do this a little bit more often, get more people on, and get people informed. Right now, it's kind of a critical time in the American history, so let's to do good for information there. Thank you guys. Well done. Thank you, Mark. I much appreciate that. I love all my peeps. Thanks for following me and supporting us while we're doing this kind of stuff. Love you all. If you need anything, reach out. And other than that, this is Sherman Tank and David Johnson, and we are out of here.
Good deal.